Hello, this is Ben Maloof, and this is a tutorial on making text go splosiony with Cinema 4D and the Thrausi plugin. So, without further ado, I will get started. Here we are on Cinema 4D, blank document. Notice nothing in my browser, content browser. I've added nothing. So we'll go ahead and start off by adding a motext object. And there it is. Isn't it pretty? It says text because it's a text object. Isn't that clever? I want it to say Ben because I'm a narcissist. Ben. Now it says Ben. Oops, I clicked off of it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and change the font too because Lucidia Grande es muy boringo. And we'll change it to something something special, like maybe Comic Sans. No, we're not going to use Comic Sans. How about computer font? That's fun. Computer font, and we're going to make it a little deeper. When we explodify our text, we're going to want more chunks flying around. So making it a little deeper will help us in that quest. So it says Ben because it's about me. Ben. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to create a floor for our explosion to happen on and for the little chunks to rain down upon. Two ways we can do this. We could create just a standard floor object, or my preferred method is to use a plane, just because planes are more versatile. They lack that like stretching to infinity quality of the floor object, but you can extrude from them, you can deform them, you can do all kinds of different things to them that you can't do with a floor object. So there's our plane, and we're going to go ahead and make it ginormous. My unit of measure is set up in millimeters right now because I've been doing a lot of 3D printing. So you will probably see that as 40 meters by 40 meters or something similar to that. So I've got to crank this way up to get this plane big enough. You can see right now it's just this tiny little thing. And we really, just for the sake of rendering and stuff, we want a pretty big surface right now. So I'll go ahead and crank this up to like 400,000. Something crazy. Something that we'll never see the edge of. Look at me, all alone and lost in this giant plane. So we'll zoom back down there. The plane is not that important. It's just there to catch the destruction. So the other thing we're going to do is actually go to this plane, go to tags, and go to simulation tags, and we're going to make it a collider body. And that will just make it so that when our text explodes, when the pieces rain down, they will collide with the plane. So otherwise they'll just pass right through it. Next thing we need to do is assign a couple materials to our text object so that it's got sort of an inner and an outer material when it's fractured into a bunch of pieces. Thrausi does a really nice job with that, so it's nice to take advantage of it. So I'll go ahead and create a new material. We'll double click on that and look at it up here. I'll zoom in even just because that's the kind of nice guy I am. And I'm going to turn off specular, go to color, let's make it red because our text is bloody on the inside, or just red. And then we'll go to reflection. Turn on reflection, we'll turn down the brightness of that so we can still see our color. And we'll add a Fresnel texture and turn down the mix on that a little bit just to give it a little more realism, a little less of a just harsh all over reflection. Okay, that looks good. That looks great. Really, really, really satisfied with that. Okay, we'll close that, and then I'll zoom back out. Oops, zoom back out this way so everybody can see things. Now I could create another material going through all those same steps, but that would be silly, time consuming. So instead I'll just click on this first material, hold down the Apple key, click and drag, and now I've got a duplicate of it. And now we can just go to our color and change it. So I'll make it a nice bright yellow green. Who doesn't love a nice bright yellow green? Then we'll add our red, then our green to our object. So it should look like that. Let's see, that should be it for now. If we do a quick test render, pretty boring. Not too much to see there yet. While I'm here, let's go ahead and create a sky object right now too, and get our whole scene set up first. I like to use sky objects for emitting global illumination. That's just me. Maybe it's not just me, but it's something I do. So created a sky object. If we do a render now, it's just going to look like gray on gray because we haven't added a material to the sky yet and we haven't turned on global illumination. So first thing I'll do is create a material for the sky. So first I'll go to color and we'll give a nice sky blue tone for our sky. Maybe a little more saturated than that. Looks good. And then we will add a texture to that. So or should I do that? No, I'll do that in luminance. So I'm going to go to basic, I'm going to turn off specular, I'm going to turn on luminance. We'll go to luminance, the luminance tab, and pick another sort of sky bluey color. Turn down the brightness a hair. Go to texture, add some noise, click on the noise, make it bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. So we just kind of want this sort of mottled appearance of sort of a semi-cloudy day. It doesn't make that much difference. And it's not going to look perfect. It's just when you're doing these little tutorial test renders, it's nice to kind of jazz them up a little bit so they don't just look like absolute crap. To be, really harsh. So we'll take our material and drag it up to the sky layer. And now if we do a quick render, oh look, it's a beautiful sunny day over the gray plain. And then we'll also create a material for our plane, perhaps. Maybe something, I don't know. We already have blue. Yellow? Let's do like a nice shiny yellow or something crazy. What kind of crazy world is this, man? Okay, Fresnel. And turn that down a little bit. Looks good. Do another quick render. Oh, we haven't added it. That's looking a little better. We're getting a lot of reflection off that sky right now, so I might actually, let's see, I might actually turn down the reflectivity a little bit. And then we will go to our render settings and go ahead and get that set up too. So I'm going to go to Effect, turn on Global Illumination, and go to Options and turn off Default Light. So now our renders are going to take a lot longer, but they should look a lot better too, in theory. Oh, so sweet. Beautiful, crazy yellow, shiny surface on a bright and sunny, slightly cloudy day in the south. And there are no mosquitoes today. It's wonderful. Okay. So now to the fun part. We've done all our nasty setup, so now we can move on to the fun part. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Motex object. Now we're going to go to plugins. And if you don't have the Thrausi plugin, I've got a link to it embedded below this video. So if you've got some spare cash, throw some his way. He's a good guy. Gives Thrausi away for free. So we'll go ahead and open up Thrausi. And just something to note, if you've picked a font that breaks your text up, breaks individual letters up into multiple pieces, or even just looking at these different pieces, the number of pieces here is going to be per object. So even though we're looking at one motext object, it's got 3 objects within it. Like if we made this editable, we would have a null with 3 objects in it, I think. Maybe not. But so this is going to be 24 pieces per letter at this point, not 24 pieces divided by 3, just to make that clear. So when you're picking a number here, pick something appropriate to however many separate objects you've got down here. There are a couple other tabs up here. You can set dynamic up to either trigger immediately or not. We're going to mess with that later, so I'm not worried about it right now. And material and bake, we're not gonna mess with those right now either. So we'll just go ahead and break. And you'll see Thrausi working, and basically it's breaking these up into little pieces and putting them back together again. Relatively quick, with simple shapes like this. The more curves, the more complexity, the more polygons you've got, the longer Thrausi is going to take. And I have this plugin crash on me all the time, so just be patient. And what I should have done before I hit the Thrausi button is gone to File and saved this thing. I haven't even saved it yet. Do I have enough crap on my desktop, I wonder? Let's see. So we'll save it as toot vid C4D. Alright, so one really nice thing that Thrausi does is it adds a dynamic tag automatically to these fracture objects that it's created. And if we open these up, you'll see that within each of them are 24 pieces. And each of those pieces has an inside and an outside material per the materials that we gave them earlier. So now for the fun part, we hit the play button, and that's what we get. Our text collapses into a heap on the floor. Pretty sweet. And if we pause it and do a quick test render, that should look pretty good because we set everything up to begin with. You know, I could have done all the setup of making everything pretty at this point, but it's more fun to just sort of have it ready. That way when you're ready to look at your renders, they actually look good. That looks pretty nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. So couple things we've got to work on here. First, our text is just sort of slumping immediately the second things start. Secondly, our pieces are sliding an unrealistically long distance across the floor. So it's like we're on a skating rink or something. Well lubricated skating rink. It just doesn't look real. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click and drag and select these dynamics tags. Go to the collision tab and turn up the friction. So if we go all the way, if we go past 100, what you end up getting is things that look sticky. They're not just, there's not just friction there, there's like some adhesion. So the second you pull that down below 100, things actually slide against each other. They just, you know, they don't do it so freely as like they're made of ice. So I'm going to pull that just a little bit further down to about 85%. You can do other things too. You can play with bounce. Like, I mean, if you crank bounce up, you get some, I mean, you get an explosion just from things being so freaking bouncy, which is kind of funny. But, alright, so everything's collapsing, and the other problem is that it's happening immediately. So to fix that, notice I've still got these 3 selected. It's just easier to do them all at once since they're identical. I'm going to go to Dynamics. I'm going to turn off Enabled. I'm going to right click on it, go to Animation, and add keyframe. Then I'll just advance to, let's go to 25 frames. And we'll turn that on, right click on it, and add keyframe. So now, if I hit the play button, nothing happens until 25 frames. Had a little microphone disconnection problem there. Where was I? That's going to enable us to do some more fun stuff. So whatever it was that I was talking about, because I honestly don't know. So let's go back to the beginning, and now we're going to add an object to act as a catalyst for our explosion. So I'm going to go and open up my objects menu and make a sphere, and we'll drag that. Oops. Drag that so it's sort of centered under the center of our text. Next, I'm going to scale that up just a little bit. I'm going to hit the C key to make it editable. Go to scale and stretch it out a little bit so that it's actually touching all of these letters. The nice thing about the 3D world is that you can do a lot of things that you can't do in real life. In this case, you can make objects intersect with one another. And in doing so, and then in making those objects dynamic, they are going to act to get away from each other as quickly as possible, because things shouldn't be able to intersect with each other. The physics engine knows that as a real world thing, but you're able to override it and actually make things happen that way. So if we take our sphere now and add this rigid body tag, so I'm just going to go ahead and, excuse me, it's actually the collider tag. I'm going to hold down my Apple key and click and drag that up there, rather than, it's just easier than going up and finding the tag in the menu again. We now have rigid body built into this sphere, and so if I hit play, the second our object becomes dynamic, it is trying to get away from that sphere as quickly as possible, and the result is an explosion. So, problem right now that is easily fixed, fortunately, is that our sphere is showing up in the renders. I'm not even going to let that finish because we all know what it's going to look like. So to get rid of the sphere, it's pretty simple. Hold down the Option key and click twice on these little circles up here. These will, if those are both red, your object will not be visible. Will not be visible in the renderer or in the editor. So we can't see the sphere anymore, but it is still there, and it's still acting physically on other objects. So if we back up now and hit play, now we get a nice satisfying explosion. And if you do a render of that, you can see now the sphere is not there. And we're waiting, and we're waiting. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Next thing that I would like to do is add a little fire to this explosion. So I've got a little technique that I use for this. It may not be the best way, but it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy, and that's sort of the idea with this particular tutorial. So I'm going to advance to 25 frames and create a light, and we'll scoot that. Oops, I keep clicking on the plane when I'm trying to orbit. Scoot that thing into the middle of our text and just lift it up a little bit so that it's kind of centered where our explosion is centered to an extent. I'll bring it down a little bit. Okay, that looks about right. So we've got this light now. If I render right now, obviously the light is just going to be sort of lighting some things up, and it's not going to look very good. Yeah, that's not what we want. So what we're going to do is actually just use the visibility of the light to create our explosion flash. So I'm at 25 frames. This is where the explosion starts, but nothing has really happened yet. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on shadows. We want them to be area shadows. I'm going to turn on volumetric visible light. Just going to give us this big dome of visible light. There is no visible light at the moment because the intensity is all the way down. see. Just thought I'd prove it. And then we'll go to visibility. And at the beginning, we're not going to want that big dome of light anyway, so we'll go ahead and take that and bump it down to 0 in the outer distance. Then we'll go to brightness, hit 0 on that, because we don't want anything showing up in the beginning. And that should be good for the moment. Oh, one other thing. We're going to go back to general, and we're going to make this light sort of have a orangey yellow color to it, like that. Which, I should have picked a better floor color. Oh well. Alright, so we're going to need to keyframe some things. So we're going to keyframe intensity. We are going to go back to the visibility tab, and we're going to keyframe outer distance. And we're going to keyframe brightness. Oh, and I'm going to turn on dithering too. I like the look of dithering. I also like the look of dust. My visible lights. Alright. Now we can advance forward a little bit, and we're going to get kind of to the just peak of the explosion, which is probably, let's say, about here. And we're going to take our outer distance and really crank it up. About 5,000 maybe. I'll take the brightness, crank that up to 2 something. And now we'll, oops, I've got to keyframe both of those things. Now we'll go back to our general tab and crank up our intensity. And we'll see how that looks. I'm already really not liking the reflections in the floor that much, but whatevs. Right? Is that what all great artists say when they don't like something? Whatevs. Ooh. Oh. Not big enough. Need bigger explosion. I also want the sky to be darker, so just for the sake of making this look a little better. But you kind of get the idea of what we got going on here. As we advance through this, like if I start back from the beginning, hit play, stop at a frame earlier. And wait. And we're waiting. So what'd you guys do today? Well, yeah, you know, I worked on this tutorial. I did some 3D printing. I played with my son and our new puppy a little bit. Oh, hey, look, it's almost done. Yeah, so you can kind of see how that flash is growing a little bit. I think, though, I would rather have this be whiter. I think it would just look better. It's going to look a little more like a magnesium burn, or, you know, something that burns really hot. But I think it'll look better, especially with that yellow background, or yellow floor. I'm going to go to the yellow floor, and I'm going to knock this almost all the way down. Maybe add some blur to it or something, because it's just bugging me. Okay, that might be a little better, or that might be really over the top. I might change the color too. I just don't see absolutely no reason for having a yellow floor. I know there was a time. Okay, pink. Yeah, pink. Why not? All the guys I know have pink floors. Okay. So, oh, hey, there it goes. I was about to start telling another stupid joke. Apparently I don't have to. I just want to see how that blurriness is going to look, and then I'll kill this thing and crank a couple other settings, and we'll probably put this bad boy to bed. Oh, I like that pink floor though, huh? Man, you can't even see any of the reflections. It's like, what was the point of leaving them on? Yeah. So I think we'll just go ahead and... Maybe I just made it way too blurry. Yeah, that's better. Okay, that'll look pretty tight, I think. All right. Where was I? The other thing I want to do, I think I'm going to turn my sky color down a bit. It's a titch on the garish side. Oh, that's just the luminance. Oops. And that'll help us see our flash a little bit better. And then we'll go back to our light. Just growing and growing. This is sort of the peak of our explosion. The visibility, we want to go ahead and keep that expanding because there's nothing wrong with that getting bigger. That's kind of what it would do. But our brightness is what's going to come down at this point, as well as our intensity over here. Actually, I think I'm going to go back to here and take the intensity past 100 because it really needs those like fingers of light reaching through the pieces that we'll get with the greater intensity. All right, let's see how that looks. Oh, I can already tell I like it better. Wouldn't be able to do. Here we go. Maybe. Wow, that's a super bright ball of... Well, anyway, looks not bad, I'm thinking. I'm going to do a little bit more tweaking to this. I'm going to probably bring the intensity of that, or the brightness of the sky down just a little bit. And try and figure out why the floor is not reflecting anything at all. And then we'll maybe, I guess you can see a little bit of reflection like in here and stuff. But and then I'll go ahead and do a render and I'll tack it on to the end of this video, or maybe at the beginning, just so you can see what the finished product is going to look like. But anyway, hopefully this was helpful. Again, this has been Maloof, and I hope you have enjoyed my splody text tutorial video. Thank you, and have a pleasant afternoon.